Welcome back to the activation phase. This is Tim, and I'm here with my trusty co-host, JP. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Psyched to be starting this new era.
Heck yeah. So, we in the last episode we had this question up that was kind of like, hey, what should we do next? And the majority said we should do Crusades next. And I mean, that's also quite easy. And I mean, we'll see when the new book comes out whether we actually finish Crusades or we switch into Chivalry, which would definitely be my priority. But we'll see about that when we get there. And for now, we'll just finish as many episodes of Crusades as we can, because this is a very, very, very cool book, and it deserves the attention for sure.
Most definitely. Also, I would rate it as my second most favorite book after Invasions.
Yeah, me too. Exactly the same.
Yes. In terms of hype levels. And also, it's really good because you can play a lot of Invasions boards in Crusades. So it makes it even better.
That's a win in my books.
Yeah, just wins all around. So we decided to pick up one of the factions we actually play.
Yeah.
And enjoy and appreciate. And that would be the Eastern Princes, which is straight away already like one of the more difficult ones because it's a double whammy in terms of the options, what you can do with them. So I guess straight off the bat, might as well just go straight to the equipment options and different factions or sub-factions. So there are 2 different factions you can choose, and that's represented by just different equipment options. So the first one is the Russian princedoms. So they're less. You have, maybe let's quickly describe the playstyle and how it differs. You have Hearthguard, which are just more traditional, so no light javelin Hearthguard. You have warriors, which are more fighty, and you can have crossbows. The difference there to the other sub-faction is the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which is a super interesting history all in itself. But there you have a more lightly armored Hearthguard, so you have Hearthguard with javelins, which you have to take, and your warriors are basically, they can either be your normal guys or heavy weapons. Levies only have a bow option, and then the 2 sub-factions have a special type of unit, which is the War Wagon, or I suppose just the wagon. They're good to know. There's quite a few FAQs for this particular warband, both in terms of the wagon itself and also some of the kind of key abilities on the board. So definitely check that out, and we'll be using the most up-to-date version. Basically, the wagon is half a point now, which is makes it basically an auto take, I would say. It counts as a mercenary, so no, unfortunately, no advanced abilities for the War Wagon. You can do the standard remove 2 Hearthguard, 4 warriors, 6 levy, etc., to trade it out, and it counts as a mounted levy unit, so it's not super easy to activate. It does generate 1 Saga dice. It's got an armor of 6 in melee, 4 in shooting, and then aggression of 4 both in melee and shooting. And it's got improvised projectiles, and it's unarmed, so it's not going to be doing a ton of damage. Let's put it that way. Yeah. On the plus side, in addition to making or creating a Saga dice, it has determination and resistance 2. And then it just counts as a mount horse, so that's reflected in the armor value already. In terms of size of the base, which is kind of a recurring theme with the chariots, it must fit within a 120 millimeter circle. It cannot be smaller than a 50 millimeter base. I don't know why you would ever go up to the maximum, to be honest, but
I mean, if you want to abuse the ability that says you have to attack this one, if you can, it makes sense to like get the maximum size out of the wagon, right? But if you don't want to use it for that, then it makes sense to not do that.
Yeah, but it's basically like the size of I guess probably like a CD or something, which is gigantic to move around.
Yeah.
It's super versatile unit and lots of fun. And also, I think one of the reasons I started collecting them as well, just to be able to make that cool wagon. There's lots of different interpretations on what it should look like. Some people kind of go the Hussite war wagon route, and other people kind of just go purely like a wagon that is like there to be plundered, which actually we should say some of the kind of the key rules as well. So it's super slow, so it can only move S for all of its movements, and it can't charge. And then finally, the final rule is no enemy unit can choose to charge a unit other than the wagon if it could charge the wagon instead. In this case, it must target the wagon. Heroes not affected, and generally it costs it. If it dies, you get 4 massacre points. So it's a very tough decoy unit basically, and it helps you save some of your squishier units on the table.
Kind of forces your opponent to do suboptimal maneuvers, and unless they can plan like 5 turns ahead, which I mean definitely some people can do, they will have to do some suboptimal moves and charges to get around having to charge the wagon, which is like it's always good to make your opponent spend dice they don't want to spend.
Yeah, just the survivability. There's no point where this is less good than taking 6 extra levy. So I think most people tend to take the wagon. Diving deep into the, I guess we briefly covered the equipment options. Let's just go through them formally, maybe. So Russian princedoms, Warlord and Hearthguard are mounted on horses without any special equipment. Warriors have no special equipment options. Levies must be either equipped with bows or crossbows, and then you can just go up to a maximum of 1 wagon. The Lithuanians have Warlord is mounted on a horse, Hearthguard are mounted on horses and equipped with javelins, and then warriors may either be deployed without any special equipment or given heavy weapons, always nice. And then finally levies equipped with bows only, and then you can also take a wagon. So nothing too crazy, but nice little equipment differences. All right. Moving on to the battle board itself. So, basic abilities, nothing special. They're basic, nice and easy. Let's go.
Yes, all right. First ability is called Feint, and it's an activation reaction. Trigger this ability after an enemy unit activates to move, but before the move is resolved, activate one of your mounted units to move. I mean, pretty easy. I feel like the Welsh have been here, and you just kind of run away before your opponents come too close. But notably, this does not work with a charge, so you have to be smart about it. You can't leave your units within charge range because they will just get charged and die. So, and definitely very interesting for the Lithuanian Hearthguard with the javelins that are mounted. That's quite kind of like can be quite powerful. And I think this is a good ability, but you kind of have to watch out a bit more than you do have to do with the Welsh.
I think this is I think it's definitely a key ability. It's or when I play them, I basically use it in 2 separate kind of situations. One is if you see that your opponent has nothing left on the board in terms of what they're like an extra charge or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can use it at their kind of their last activation when they say, "Okay, I'm going to activate to move." You're like, "Okay, great." You use this just to move your guys up to be positioned better the next turn, either in the Russian princedoms version where you can make a charge with it with L next turn, or with the Lithuanians that you can throw your javelins in a more favorable manner. Or that's more like if you decide to do it at the end of the turn, especially at the kind of the first few turns. In the end of the game, this is so incredibly good to make sure that your guys get out of the way, survive, and also, for example, just to get rid of extra what's it called? Fatigue, for example. They don't
Right.
want you to move very far away. You just move
Yeah.
them. That way they can get rid of fatigue in your turn, and then also rest in. Sorry, they can get rid of fatigue in your opponent's turn. Hopefully they don't get caught, but anyway. And then you could just rest in your turn, and then your guys are fresh and ready to go, especially with some of the other abilities.
When you
So
say
generally,
when you say get rid of fatigue, do you mean
if they shorten your move.
Oh, right, yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah.
But then normally, if they're doing that, they have a pretty good plan to catch them. So, all in all, really good. Unfortunately, it does not work with your war wagon since it's advanced ability. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But all in all, like it's a very useful thing. Not as flexible as the Wells options, but still pretty good.
Nice.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one. So it's Ad Nauseam. This is a melee ability using either a common or a rare. For each result of 6 or higher on your attack dice, you may immediately reroll a die which did not score a hit for, and then in parentheses, for each result of 4 or more if you used a rare. There's multiple kind of areas where you can use this and make it much better. I need to check actually because I haven't played these guys since the 2022 rules. But for example, if you use javelins and you charge, you obviously get the +1, which makes it better.
Yeah.
Also, if you use crossbows, this also makes it better because it's easier to roll the or I guess
but this is
get
only
the 6
for
or
melee,
higher.
right?
Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. And then the heavy weapons.
For sure. Yes.
Makes a unit of guys with heavy weapons pretty scary as well. I don't actually think I've used the rare on this ever, mostly because the rare is also really good on other parts of the board. But I think people look at this and it just looks really scary, and being able to roll like everything that or re-roll dice for each dice that's 5 or more using the javelins or the heavy weapons. Definitely quite powerful. It's nice, but I think people kind of overestimate how much effect this has. It's not like the first place I would put the dice compared to some of the other ones, but it's still it makes a killy unit even more killy, basically.
But like the math is quite interesting here, right? I feel like because going into Hearthguard with this, where you would typically, or where I typically would send my heavy weapon warriors, rerolling. I mean, you hit with half your dice because like a roll of 4 will usually be enough with heavy weapons, and you get to reroll a third of your dice. So some of your dice even will be left out and you can't reroll them because you didn't make it. And I mean, we'll see the rest of the board later, but I feel like, as you said it, something that already has a big impact definitely explodes with this, but something that doesn't really do a lot won't get buffed up by this to be an actual threat. So having this up is definitely less scary than having some of the other abilities on here up. So we'll see. I think in the end how good this one is. This one, it's for me, it's a weird one. I don't know. Yeah,
I think that especially with all the other things you can do on the board, I think it sounds really nice, but in the end, you use it probably less than you would expect to use it. Unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Next one sounds scary as heck, and it's called Death Blow. It takes an uncommon or a rare. It's an activation ability for mounted units only. If your unit is not armed with javelins, activate it to make a shooting attack with a range of medium. If your unit is equipped with javelins, activate it for a charge with charge distance of long plus short, so a full 16 inches. And I mean, I've seen this one played against me many times, and the 16 inches are incredibly scary because they can basically pick whatever they want, and if they buff up their combat as well, they will still, or give them resilience or whatever with the ability we'll talk about later. They can still throw javelins after this, and it's so incredibly deadly to have a Hearthguard unit do this to you, and then having the flexibility of like the Russian version of this, which doesn't have the Hearthguard with their javelins to throw javelins, is also just very good. Unfortunately, the javelin attack by the Russians does generate fatigue as like, if I know that correctly, but I don't see a way why it wouldn't generate fatigue, so that's a bit unfortunate. But so I think this is better for the Lithuanians. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I do. I think the same thing. There's also no reason why it wouldn't create a fatigue. It's not saying your unit counts as being equipped with javelins or something. So it's just a shooting attack with range of M, with the stipulation being you can't be armed with javelins. So 100% agree with you there. I would actually warn people against using this, because it sounds very, very tempting, obviously, like the L+S.
Mm-hmm.
You can really catch people out, especially with feint as well. If you manage to move your unit kind of like right at the end of your opponent's turn, and then you have this up, and then you can, like, it's very easy to be able to do this. You just need an uncommon or a rare, and then you charge in. However, you are in the end just Hearthguard armed with javelins, so be careful. Don't do this too early. It's nice to catch kind of weakened units, or units that can't close ranks, or units that already have a fatigue or something like that off guard. But it's also a little bit of a trap, especially when you start playing the Lithuanians, to charge in your Hearthguard too early before they've had a chance to kind of get their points back by throwing javelins for a couple turns. But all in all, that's more of a kind of a user error rather than something wrong with this particular ability.
I think it's just, for my playstyle personally, it's just very tempting, right? Like, if I see, this makes it possible to see very important targets and kind of snipe them with possibly small units if you want. And so you're definitely right. This is I don't know, scary, and this can go wrong very easily. But this also, if you like do it right, this can like definitely change the game. And even if you do it in the beginning and kind of like snipe the Warlord, right? And I feel like Tristan, he always plays the Spanish, and we'll talk about the Spanish later, I'm sure, in a later episode. But like, his whole game plan is to snipe the Warlord with one or two abilities of the Spanish, and it wins games just because the value of the Warlord is so great. And so this one, I feel like if you understand it as a tool in your toolbox and not just like your game plan, this is good.
Definitely. I think the value here is also not just what you can actually do with it. Also, people will generally position their cavalry outside of the L+S distance, which means that they will need to make two moves to get to you. For some boards, it's okay because they either have buffs or they can do like fatigue-free moves. But for a lot of boards, it's like just an extra dice they have to spend and a fatigue that they will have to get. So it does give you a little bit of flexibility in terms of just making your Hearthguard a little bit more protected, or you can just move them a little bit further so that they're out of charge range of like 2 times M for infantry or anything like that. So it just makes it so much more survivable in the end, and it's just like a little bit of a mind game you can play with your opponent as well.
Yes.
But yes, so I think verdict, we both really, really like this, and we think the javelin option is better than the melee Hearthguard option. But anyway, okay, cool. The next one, which is an ability I absolutely love. So this is Brothers in Arms. This is a melee ability for foot units only, and using a common. If your unit contains more figures, then the enemy unit gain 1 defense dice for each figure you outnumber them by. I must admit, I always play with the Lithuanians, and this is just an absolutely brutal thing to play if you have like a 12-pack of warriors with heavy weapons.
Yeah.
Absolute beasts, and gets around the the downside of having a unit with armor.
And quite cheaply as well.
Yeah, a common, like, why would you not do this? 12 guys, especially in Crusades, where you tend not to have big blobs of things, I guess, except for Byzantines or something like that. But taking on like 6 Hearthguard or something like that, it just makes it so incredibly survivable if you gain 6 defense dice for a common. Absolutely insane. It makes the guys on foot so just do a lot of work. On the Russian side of things, it makes your levy with crossbows just which are already incredibly annoying to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
Makes them even more annoying. If you have your 12 levy suddenly having like 6 defense dice or more, and just not dying. So all in all, this is probably like a ability I always have up. There's no reason not to have this, both in your turn or as a defensive kind of mechanism, if you think you might get charged in your opponent's turn.
Yeah, this is just like a bread and butter good ability. Like, yeah, definitely. And in Crusades, as far as I know or I experienced, there's not many factions that create a lot of attack dice. And so dealing with levies can sometimes already be a hassle. I mean, like, excluding Militis Christi that are just super good at killing levies, but and then having this to protect your already annoying like levies or warriors that are also big blobs, this is just, man, this is so good. Like, it's such a good ability. I mean, the restriction on the cost of being like a common for sure has to be a common. Maybe annoying, but you have more experience playing this board. Would you say that comes up often, or are the other abilities like versatile enough with the dice you can put on?
Like, your commons definitely are used very often, but generally this board is not like super heavy on the dice. If you glance quickly at the board, you have quite a good option. You have 2 abilities which can take any of the 3 facings, which is always good. And you only have 1 ability which requires 2 dice to use.
Yeah.
So your dice economy is actually pretty good, especially with some of the abilities that we're going to talk about later, which just makes it really easy to get exactly what you need. So all in all, it's not an issue, and just in terms of the just the utility and what you get back from it, like, there's really no reason not to play this ever. Like, it's in pretty much any situation where you want to use it, it will be more worthwhile than the combat bonus.
Yeah, true. All right, next up is Crossfire. It's a shooting ability that can take any die facing. And it says the target must reroll 2 of their successful defense dice, 4 if you use a rare. I feel like this ability gives me two things, 2 vibes basically. This is good in a staring match where you just like you stand around, both players stand around with their army and just slightly move forward, shoot their stuff, and go back. Yes, this can make a difference if you're shooting Hearthguard or whatever. This can be super annoying to force them to reroll. But other than that, this feels to me like an afterthought. But please correct me, JP, but this feels like, hey, I have 1 die that I don't quite know what to do with, and I'll probably shoot once this turn. I'll just put it on here. But I feel like the other advanced abilities are definitely more worth it. And I would never put a rare on here. And even a combat bonus to me feels more versatile and better, just because your opponent will not always have 2 successes in their defense dice, and or even 4. And I'm not super hyped about this one. What do you say? Please correct me if I'm wrong.
I think this is really, really good, actually. The effect of having to reroll it basically goes from saving, or your opponent saving like a shooting attack, like just assuming that they're not in cover or anything like that, from 50% down to that they have only a chance of around 25% or something to save it for those two specific ones.
Mhm.
So, for example, 6-pack of Hearthguard will generally hit, like, let's say, half the time. So, if they're shooting like other Hearthguards, like mounted Hearthguards, you'll be getting 3 hits. Reroll 2 of those. It goes up to, you're probably going to kill like 3, or if you're lucky, 4. So for a common, like, it's just really, really good. This board basically suffers from not being able to get a ton of extra attack dice, but what it does do is kind of like make your abilities and the attacks that you do more
More impactful, right?
just more predictable. So
Yeah.
for example, the ad nauseum, it basically just makes it kind of like you're not going to get more, or you don't get more attack dice. Your attack dice become of a higher quality. Same thing of the shooting here with Crossfire. So I think it's very powerful, because like if you're already spending 2 dice, like one to run your guys forward, get your free javelin shot, and then run them back again, you just put this one there, and it goes from maybe killing 2 Hearthguard to being able to kill 3 or 4 Hearthguard if they're mounted. So for me, it's 100% worthwhile. Also, if you're going to run around anyway and get fatigued, you might as well make it count more. So for me, it's like an easy place where you can put a common or a uncommon. I'm not sure if I've ever done the rare on there, but who knows? But I think it's very good.
I mean, yeah, in the situation you just described, like the skirmish type fight or situation, yes, I agree. This is good. This is what I tried to kind of this is what I meant with the first mode or first vibe or whatever. But I feel like if you're in a full fight, this just doesn't cut it. There's just value-wise, I feel like there's just better abilities on here too, including the combat bonus. But I'm happy for us to disagree, maybe for the first time on an ability. But you definitely have more experience with this board, so you're probably right. But I'm interested. I'm going to put up a question in this Spotify episode, and you can kind of answer. And on YouTube, I guess, when this releases on YouTube, half a year later, still love your YouTube. And please answer who you think is right, if this is worth it or not. And I'm definitely putting that in.
Sure. No, I think also when you're running your Hearthguard around to shoot them with the javelins, generally you have some extra dice to spare anyway, because you're not going to be, your foot units are not going to be up advanced yet and stuff like that. So you might be a little bit like you have a little bit of extra dice that you don't need to make sure that your guys are going to survive melee. So it's more of that unit, that kind of style of kind of thing that you're going to do in the first few turns when you're basically running out, trying to snipe some guys out. And this just makes it more impactful, basically, especially earlier on if you can already get rid of those guys. But anyways, I think we've talked enough about it. So the next one, which is so good, is called Hesitation.
The signature ability.
No, I'm not sure if this is. I would not say this is the signature.
It is for me.
All right. So Hesitation. This is an orders reaction using either a common or a uncommon. Choose an advanced ability from the enemy battle board. If your opponent triggers that ability during this turn, you can take 2 of your available Saga dice at the end of the turn and place them on your battle board, showing the face of your choice. So, this is so good, especially with, I think Crusades has, I think the authors have kind of gravitated to having like 1 or 2 really signature abilities, maybe more than what you would see in Vikings or Invasions, where there's like some abilities which you just always put like an ability down. Also, it's incredibly situational, and it gets better the more you play more games, because you can already pinpoint to say, okay, I know this particular ability is key to key to the plan or whatever, and either that means that they'll give you dice, which is great, especially because you can place them and use them, for example, in Brothers in Arms to protect your guys or whatever, or it's just really good to get people not to play the key ability that they want to play. So either way, win-win.
Especially 2 dice abilities. Oof. Putting this on a 2 dice ability is it just hurts so much, because as an opponent to the Eastern Princess, I mean, because I know I really need to use these 2 dice, or I know I can't use or can't activate abilities that have 2 dice, because my opponent will just use hesitation on this ability. And it's just, we always say this, but when an ability or and if an ability can mess with the things your opponent can do, like which Saga dice they can place or how they have to build their warband or whatever, just that's so suppressive. As in, you do so much more than just spending that die to potentially get 2 dice more, because your opponent has to play around it, and that just takes resources, and it's super annoying. And this one is, for me, this is the signature ability of the Eastern Princess. All right, next up is Galvanized. It's an Aurus that can either take a uncommon or a rare. If the enemy warband has 3 or more fatigues, remove a fatigue from 1 or 2 of your units. Easy, nice, clean. I think this is a good ability. Not too much to say about it, other than you have to kind of have fought, or kind of have you have to force them to get fatigue through whatever. This is good. If your opponent has 3 or more fatigues at the end of the game, this is way more likely. And then having a single uncommon, especially in a warrior heavy warband, which usually needs commons, a single uncommon, remove 2 of your fatigues from important units. Super, super, super good. And I think very valuable ability.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would never put a rare on here. Also,
Yeah,
there's
no,
buff for
of
it,
course.
so that seems overkill. But it's also one of the few abilities which you can actually use on your war wagon as well, to remove a fatigue, in addition to the resting, because you're not resting anything. You're just removing a fatigue. So it's really good for your guys armed with javelins, or the next ability where you get resilience, to be able to basically just wipe 2 fatigues off in your turn through 1 galvanized, 2 rest. So, like you said, at the end of the game, it's much more likely that there'll be a number of units with fatigue to facilitate this. So, I think this is such a good ability, especially at the end. Anything with fatigue, warlord, wagon, Hearthguard with ability, just getting rid of fatigue, always good. Okay. I think we'll move on to what is maybe also one of the potential signature abilities of this board.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so this one's called Drug. It's a melee ability, so Hearthguards or heroes. Choose another friendly hero or unit of Hearthguards with an M of your unit. Gain as many dice as twice the number of figures in this unit. These may be attack or defense dice, or a mix of both. After this melee is resolved, the chosen unit suffers 1 casualty and 1 fatigue. So this ability has gone through multiple different iterations of FAQs. I think this one's a little bit more clear exactly what needs to happen. I think the new wording as well is basically it like there's no real reason to be able to use this if you're next to your warlord anymore. If you're charging in with your Hearthguard, there's no reason to use it if you're just getting 2 attack dice from your, and 2 attack and 2 defense dice from your a total of 2 dice from your warlord, because he's just a single figure. However, if you have 2 units of 6 Hearthguards, it starts to get a little bit more interesting in terms of just the raw attack power that you can get from this. Personally, I use this much less than I would I generally expected to. So I think I've only played it 2 or 3 times at the end of games when I really had to. I don't know about you.
I'm just thinking right now because I thought charisma works for Saga abilities, and so uh, I always thought, or is it is it presence in English, not charisma? Right? Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It is
it's
presence, right?
presence.
Um, I thought because the presence rule said that presence is only affects Saga abilities, and so that says to me that it does affect Saga abilities, and so you would definitely give your Hearthguard unit 8 dice. If like I'm ready to be convinced otherwise, but I don't see why not, because he has presence, and as the presence rule states, your unit counts, or your figure counts as having uh, four four figurines, and yeah.
Yeah, I
And
guess. Yeah, you're right. I think the previous one was like. Actually, no, you're right, because this is figures and not models in the unit. Um, so I
yeah,
think you might actually be right. So
and
completely disregard what I said about the warlord.
and because yes, this is not that good as no, it's still good even if the warlord charges and has the Hearthguard nearby, and it's definitely also good if the Hearthguard charge and have the warlord nearby. This is just a super good ability, and I mean, I'll just read the presence rule here for a second, and we can decide together, right? When a special rule or Saga ability requires you to count the figures in a unit, each figure in a unit with presence rule counts as 4 models, and I feel like this is exactly what is happening here.
I think so too. So
So
I've been hamstringing myself all these years playing this. So this is a welcome rereading of the rule.
heck yeah, yeah. So I mean, this is just such a good ability. This is for if you do it with your warlord nearby. Your warlord, yes, he suffers 2 fatigues, and yes, that's a bummer. But still,
That has a massive
but you have your Hearthguard nearby that can protect him, and if you do this, your warlord gave you 8 attacks, and your Hearthguard probably also had, or not 8 attacks, but 8 dice, and your Hearthguard also probably had like, I don't know, 12 attack dice or whatever, and so the threat that was nearby should be removed by now, and your wallet should be okay. I feel like this is such a cool ability. I love playing this ability myself. This is very aggressive, very powerful.
Did you say it's a signature ability?
I mean, probably. Yeah, I mean, probably. It's close. It's close, but you're probably right.
All right, good. No, like this is also one of the few abilities where you can actually gain attack dice. So
Yeah,
always welcome, or defense dice. So
yeah. All right.
that is pretty solid.
Cool. Let's agree on drug and hesitation to be 2 signature abilities here, as you said before. All right, let's go straight into Lord of the East. It's the next ability on the board, and it can take any die facing. It's a melee ability that's for Hearthguards only. Your unit gains resilience once. Your unit gains resilience 1, is what I meant to say, during this melee. Resilience 2 if you use a rare. This is just easy, good, especially if you know that your opponent has a lot of fatigue on his on their warband already, so you can use Galvanized in one of your later turns. I feel like this is giving your unit of Hearthguard resilience is always a bit dangerous, or you have to do it right, because having your unit be fully fatigued can, in my opinion, can sometimes be a lot more problematic than having 2 figures left or less. So a unit of 6 Hearthguard that is exhausted, I feel like usually has less value than a unit of 4 Hearthguard that has 1 fatigue. So if done right, this is good. If you want to protect something or whatever, but in a situation where the game is maybe a bit more mobile, I feel like this could be a trap. What do you think?
Agree. I think I've probably only used it right at the end of the game. So basically, you're player 2, and it's like the last turn, and you need to, or like one of the last turns, and you need to get some enemy unit off like a objective or something like that. They need to retreat. So I think there is absolutely no issue if you face no consequences whatsoever, or if like the unit is like off into a corner and you can't like be charged by someone else or something like that. There, it's just good to be able to keep your Saga dice up and running from your Hearthguard, and make sure that you can capture the objective. One thing, a lot of objectives now and scenarios mean like you need your unit not to be exhausted to be able to capture it or to contest it. So that is one downside. But yeah, if you're looking at master points or something like that, just being able to then I would rather have an exhausted unit than have a completely depleted unit if it comes down to master points.
Yeah.
Yes, agree. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, especially it doesn't make your guys invulnerable. You just don't have the fatigue removal abilities on the board. Like galvanize, nice, but it's not enough if it takes basically 2 turns to get them up and running again.
And this also is not. Maybe I'm too picky here, but I feel like this could have been one of the abilities that's like an Oda's reaction or an Oda's until end of turn. Maybe it's worse, or this is a melee ability that says they have resilience until end of turn. Because it is a double-edged sword. I feel like it could have had an upside, but maybe I'm too picky, and then the common would have been too good on this or whatever. But all right, let's go into the last one, I guess.
Okay. Last one, which is the only 2 dice ability, which is
it has my name in it.
Yes, it does indeed, and it's called Timorous Advance. So this is orders or an orders reaction. Choose an enemy unit more than S away from an enemy hero. Until the end of the turn, this unit counts as a mercenary unit and suffers 1 fatigue at the start of each melee in which it is engaged. This is, I think, potentially also a signature ability of this board. This, I think, the hesitation plus Timorous Advance, it basically means that one, you can't use an ability that you want to use with hesitation, and Timorous Advance means that your unit, unless you're babysitting it with your a priest or your warlord or I guess personal champion or whatever they're called. Actually, no, they don't exist. I guess what is it? I guess does a bard count? Do you have a bard?
Yeah, a bard exists here, I think.
Yeah, I guess they count as a hero. So maybe finally a use for them. Then you need to keep your hammer units that you want to do a whole bunch of stuff with and your warlord together, which is great for a snipe from death blow, I guess. But it's also just such a pain in the ass. If you see someone putting this down, your unit is off, you guarding some objective in the middle of nowhere. You're gonna be okay, if he charges it, I'm gonna do some sweet combo, and then boom, can't do anything. I think this is just such a mind game ability to play against your opponent, which is great.
Yeah, the mercenary part is definitely the more important one. That's for sure. But the fatigue is also super annoying. If you put it on as you said, on a big unit of 12 warriors or whatever, and your plan is to wipe them out this turn anyway. This is so annoying if you have your kind of your stragglers, your single warrior here or whatever, just exhausting them can be super good. And the mercenary part, of course, is the big part, but spreading extra fatigue or pushing extra fatigue on the enemy unit, with which you can usually increase your armor as well, because they would get a fatigue again at the start of melee and at the end of melee. And so you can keep your guys quite safe and your opponent quite unsafe, which is awesome.
I think the extra use for this is also if you just want to run in like a sacrificial unit into a unit guarding an objective and just put 2 fatigues on them, and get them exhausted if they already have one, something like that. Even if you have no chance of actually killing very much with it, you can still just completely negate like a turn of scoring or something like that. So I think there's lots of different kind of ways of using this. It basically means, in addition to having to navigate around like your war wagon to be able to charge a unit in their turn, they also have to deal with like that if they charge out away from their warlord, which is I guess they would have to start like SOA anyway, but then they can like, it just makes it so difficult for them to like have like one or more powerful units like running out on a flank or something like that and charging you. So everything about this is just like an additional mind game you can play against your opponent.
The Eastern Princes are so annoying. Like reading the board again and going through what they actually want to do and their game plan. It's so obnoxious. I love it. It's so cool. Such a cool faction, really. It's incredible.
Yeah, so I think this is like a moment like we spoke mostly about the kind of Lithuanian side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have more experience with them. I've never played the Russian variant. I think the javelin armed warrior, javelin armed Hearthguard, and in combination with the heavy weapon warriors are just such a good combo, especially with your wagon as well, because your wagon is just going to be kind of like at the side with your warriors or next to your Hearthguard, and then anyone who gets close is basically going to have to position themselves in a way there, either be super clever or like do an extra move so they can only charge whatever unit they actually want to charge. Like everything about this board is just like making it difficult for your opponent to do exactly what they want to do, or just putting an extra step where they have to spend extra dice or give you extra dice with hesitation, or not do whatever combo they want to do with the Timur's advance, etc., etc. So it's just such a good, like it puts a lot of like difficulty on your opponent. It's not like I'm playing ability and I'm getting like 3 extra defense dice or something. Like that's fine. This is more like, you know, you're forcing your opponent to use more dice, thinking about things. Yeah, more brain, which is like if you're doing like a 3-round tournament or 5-round tournament, which is always good. Just wearing them down.
It's quite unfair actually to kind of force your opponent in a 4 game per day tournament to play into Eastern Princess more than once. It's exhausting.
Yeah, and I think they actually do pretty well with. Like, it's not an easy faction to start off with. Like they're definitely fun, but I think you need to know the game pretty well, and you need to know your enemy's battle boards pretty well to get the most out of this board.
Yeah.
Awesome. Should we talk about model options?
Yeah, I have no idea here. I'll build it with like a mix out of Dark Age Warriors and something else. But I need help. How do you build this, JP?
So I initially got into the Lithuanian faction because they have very similar equipment options to the Pagan Peoples. So I first built Pagan Peoples and then realized the overlap was pretty significant if I just got some extra warriors with heavy weapons. So I think there the overlap is pretty good, especially Eastern Princes. If you're kind of going the earlier side of the Crusades, you're kind of like they're going to be lightly armored, like kind of more Eastern type armor, like lamellar armor. There's a reasonable amount of, actually, I guess there's not a massive amount of like documents, pictures online about it. But there's enough to kind of go off of. So you can give them like just chainmail, kind of like a little bit archaic looking models generally. If you want to go full like later period, like there's some really cool like helmet styles and laminar armor and everything else, and you're completely nuts. But to my best, or the best of my knowledge, there's no like dedicated Lithuanian models available. For the Russian princes, the Russian princedoms, there's like the Gripping Beast has like really nice models for the Russian princedoms, but they're just like heavily armored Hearthguard, kind of like relatively generic looking warriors and crossbowmen. Like there's like nothing too special. In terms of options, if you want to kit bash from scratch, I think Victrix releasing like some of their Arabic like Hearthguard type models should be interesting. I think there you can probably kit bash a few of the options a little bit. It hasn't been released yet, so I'm just kind of working off the renders, but you can kind of get like a little bit more Eastern style armor. What I've done for the Lithuanians, I've used the Victrix Norman Knights models. It's not 100% correct. Like I think they have a little bit too much chainmail, but I think people will forgive me. And just giving them javelins, and then I just make green stuff shields, like the kind of like the boxed shields with like the little bump in the middle, which is quite distinctive. And then just adding like one or two, like a little bit more Eastern flair to them. So I think that's pretty good in terms of the heavy weapon guys. I'm still looking for some good models, like unarmored models with lots of Dane axes or stuff like that. So
right, yeah.
Like at the moment, I'm just using like some metal Viking type models from Footsore, but not 100% happy with them. So I'm looking out for some better models. Then your generic guys with bows, pretty easy to find, so no issue there. And your war wagon, I think I'm using like one from War Bases, and I went down the route of being like, it sucks at fighting, so it's more just like some bags of loot which people are going to chase, and it's difficult to kill. So I've seen people use like much more armored Hussite type war wagons.
I have one of those, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's not the right period, but it looks cool, so who cares? So like lots of modeling options available, lots of potential to kit bash. So all in all, like really interesting warband to play. In terms of how would you build your warband?
I am absolutely hopeless here. Again, please educate us, JP. I know you've played the Lithuanians. I have no idea for either faction, but of course, I mean, I can present an option, but I'm sure your Lithuanians will be much more educated. Your idea on the Lithuanians is much more educated. So please enlighten us.
Yeah. So kind of auto take is the war wagon, so that's half a point already.
Yeah.
I've tested and played both with 3 points of Hearthguard split into like 2 units of 6, or just taking a unit or 1.5 points of Hearthguards. The 2 units of Hearthguard just is too much of a tax in the end, I think, and makes it very powerful, but also incredibly fragile if you get caught. So for me, it's just a little bit too risky. I think you can probably pull it off, but then you have to play so incredibly cagey and just be really, really smart with your placement. And that's just not my play style, unfortunately. So half point of the war wagon, 1.5 points of Hearthguard with javelins, and then the remaining 4 points would be 1.5 points of warriors with heavy weapons, 1 point of levy with bows, which leaves you with like what is that? Another half point or something.
Hmm.
So either you can go and get more levy and have like 2 units of bows, even though they're not particularly supported by this warband. I mean, you can do crossfire to get like a little bit better shooting, or you can just get like a unit of 4 warriors and hide them in like the as a dice generating unit somewhere, or split or just get more like 2 units of 2 units of 8 warriors with heavy weapons. Can't go wrong with those guys. But I think all in all, it's a very flexible warband.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah, it's definitely a good sign. And when I played against Gabor, he was taking them, if I remember correctly, it's already been a
The
while.
Polish
I think,
Grand Melee, right?
yeah, Polish Grand Melee. He was doing, I think, 1.5 points mounted Hearthguard, 1.5 points of warriors with heavy weapons, 1 point of scouts, war wagon, and then probably 1 point of levy. I'm not sure if I'm missing some points there, but I think that was the general gist of the of his warband. Maybe he was even taking 2 points of Hearthguard in one unit, something like that. So all in all, incredibly powerful. And then he was basically just using his, I think they're scouts or guides. I can never remember which one, what they're called.
Let's just say scouts.
Yeah, the guys who basically go sit in the train and then make it so that your cavalry can move quickly through it. Those guys. So that just makes your guys even more of a threat, especially with the range L+S charging with Deathblow. That's always fun. So all in all, super solid warband. I think if I was taking the Eastern Princes one, I would probably go 2 points of Hearthguard, 1 point of levy with crossbows, and then 2.5 points of warriors with no special equipment options, and then the war wagon, maybe like some kind of mercenary option as well would be reasonable, but I think those would be pretty solid. And your warriors are just going to be so incredibly difficult to shift with brothers in arms, closing ranks, getting tons of defense dice, and then just kind of like holding ground basically, and just being.
But the thing is, I feel the battle board really kind of most of it makes you. No, let's start again. I feel like the battle board helps you stay alive more, and only Ad nauseam and Druk make your fighting more deadly, and the Lithuanians just have the deadlier equipment options, and I think the Lithuanians just have a better setup here, equipment wise, than the Russians do.
Yeah, and they're also incredibly shooty, especially with like just your what's it called? Your Hearthguard with javelins going around shooting, and even you can use Deathblow on your warlord because he doesn't have javelins to make him shoot if you really want to. Mm-hmm. So you can get like that little extra bit of shooting on top of that as well. So all in all, I think the Lithuanians kind of win this one in terms of just being more versatile.
Yeah.
Like what you said, yeah, they can just punch harder with the javelin option, and there's loads of different ways of getting loads of defense dice. So with Drug, if you can have a mix of like attack and defense dice, so you can make them pretty survivable. Same thing with like Timur Servants, basically. That's just like by definition taking away some very good abilities from your what's it called, from your opponent. And then even with hesitation, if you really want to, you can put 2 rares if they play a specific ability and put it on your combat bonus and get more defense dice. So I think there's lots of ways of being more survivable with them. So all in all, I think it's a really, really fun board. Puts a lot of pressure on your opponent to figure out what the hell's going on, and gives you a lot of like flexibility in terms of what you want to do as well.
So out of 5 war wagons, how many would you give them?
I would give them a solid 4 out of 5 war wagons.
Yeah,
I think they're also just incredibly fun. There's no like really negative abilities on here for your opponent, so it's not like they're playing against it and they're like, oh shit, it's horrible to play against. Like the hesitation,
it's not playing Russ.
Like like those 2 options, like you can do what you want, but it's just gonna like suck a little bit for you.
Yeah.
Or for example, with the Timur Servants, it basically just means that you had to place your hero next to your unit better, so it's on you really. So all of those kind of things, like it's not like a negative player experience, and in the end, like if you don't play them very well, they're just incredibly fragile. If you get caught too early or you don't have things on your board that you should have, like they're just incredibly fragile and they'll melt really quickly. So it's like a high risk, high reward type of board,
which is cool. Yeah. And damn, I'm looking forward to playing these guys more. I don't have the models, so I'll only play them on Tabletop Simulator. But TTS is always good to get more experience in and figure out what the heck is going on, as you said 2 minutes ago. And these are just so fun. Really, really cool warband.
All right, kicking it off with a super fun warband in Age of Crusades. Looking forward to. Are you willing to commit to the next one?
Ooh, absolutely not. I mean, yes. We just talked about the Polish Grand Melee, and I feel like there is only one successor to the Eastern Princess when we talked about the Polish Grand Melee, and that's the Militis Christi, and we will, because that's the faction that won, and Michał kind of just ripped everyone a new one with them. So let's do Militis Christi next.
All right, I was expecting you to say Polish. Also, I think they're Polish. Like I think they're like actually a very good faction.
Yeah, I know you love them, but we can't do two factions in a row that you love. That's not okay, JP. Right. You can't have too much fun.
Okay, we'll mix it up a little bit. But
yeah, cool,
anyway,
cool.
Thank you very much for
thanks
for listening to the end. Glad to be starting a whole new book, and speak to you guys soon.
Yeah, before we send you off, there's one more personal info that I want to share with you guys, because in future recordings, a stray cat has found its way into my home, onto my balcony, and now into my home and heart. And I told officials that it's here, and it's been 2 months and some, like 2 months plus, and no one has called or said they're missing their cat. And so I'm probably going to keep it. And in future recordings, I will have some. I think there was even some today. I'm not going to cut it out. I'll have a beautiful baby boy cat that screams around and wants some attention. And I just thought I'd let you guys know. And thank you so much for listening. And goodbye.
All right. I think we're going to have to put a poll onto which legendary unit will give the name to the cat.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy for you guys to name my cat, please. All right.
Okay, I'm voting for Mindaugas, Grand Duke of Lithuania. That's a good name for the cat.
Yeah, sounds good. I potentially really like War Wagon as a name for the cat, but well, all right, cool. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you guys had fun. I'm absolutely positive we did, and I'm looking forward to the next episode. Thank you.
All right, take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.